Hello and welcome to my channel, and in today's video you can see me pointing at the screen there, trying these markers that we're pretty sure we got from Lidl's. They're just cheap markers, generally probably for kids, but they say they're watercolor markers, so I thought, hey, what the hell, I'll use them on watercolor paper bleh, just to see what I can do with them. And you got these ones, and I'm speeding it up because this is a long video. So these ones have a bullet nib and a thicker bullet nib, the ones that are silver, and I mean obviously not alcohol markers, they're not anything near an alcohol marker, they're just watercolor markers. And the thicker bullet end, or what do you want to call it? What does it call it on the packaging? Where are they? Because there's a thick and thin side, it says on it here. What does this say? Scroll over. It just says a wide tip for coloring large areas. That one worked better than the narrow tip. Not oh gosh, things falling over. Not just because it was bigger, but it just, the ink seemed to come out a little bit better than with the smaller one. And this is cold press watercolor paper. I think, let me see, this is 140 pounds. I think it's it's a Bockingford, which I've never actually used. But, so maybe I should have tried something else. It's first paper I've never used before, but I have more, like, little cards, so maybe I'll try, like, a small watercolor thing next. And so I'm just putting the ink down, and I thought these were some Livingston daisies that I really like, and we used to have quite a lot of them in some pots in the backyard, but forgot to plant some this year, and we've run out of pots and compost because the rest of the compost that we have is for the tomatoes that hubby's trying to grow, and trying to get stuff because of, you know what going on, a little difficult. So we've got compost enough to grow tomatoes and cucumbers, but in my anemones that we planted, but other than that, no. So now, watercolor, that's not watercolor, water, to see what it does, and it kind of works. It still leaves like a bit of a line, you know how like sometimes if you use like watercolor pencils, doesn't break down like the line enough, so it leaves it behind. But once again, the thicker end blended better than the thinner end, and it kind of creates a watercolor effect in the end, sort of. We'll say it does, and just close your eyes a bit, or just slightly, and you can kind of look and see it. But yeah, we'll just say it does. And I think part of the problem was, like I said, this is cold press, maybe just a bit too bumpy for the markers, because like I said, they're generally for kids, and they probably would be using like smooth paper or printer paper and stuff, so nothing with a lot of texture to it. And now I'm just trying to make it a little darker, so it's got a bit more of a gradient look to it. And it kind of does in the end, but I end up giving up on this one later on, like later on when I get, work more on both of them. I just pretty much say, nah, this is going nowhere. But which you'll see later. I'm jumping ahead here. But trying to pull some of that darker color out into the middle of the flowers, and it kind of worked. Like I said, this is not probably meant to be used like this. They're not like art watercolor markers or pens or whatever you want to call it. They're probably, like I said, just used for kids to color on it and stuff like that. But, because actually, is there an age thing on these? Let me think. Let's see, pick this up. Let's see, no, there's no age thing on this. But, no, because sometimes there's an age thing. Wait, no, well, it says you can't give it anybody between 0 and 3, because that's probably, like the cap, because choke and all that stuff. Warning, not suitable for children under 36 months. Choking hazard due to small parts. Routine packaging for future reference. Well, if your kid is gonna chew on pen nibs, you should be watching what the hell they're doing, first of all. But, because that's not safe. But, it's like with, kids eating Tide Pods and shit like that. Well, if they're over the age of 13, if they're doing that, then they deserve, what they get. If they're under that, then, well, that's not a good thing. But, anyway, I'm not talking about people doing stupid shit. But this is the other set of markers, which is by, let me think, I'm putting these up. These is by, was it Creabox? What are these, Marabou ones or whatever like that? But they do have a brush and a chisel tip end. And these ones actually felt like they had a lot more ink in them. Not just because of the brush pen, but just because of the way they actually act. They bleed into each other, which actually worked fine. But they just seem to take to the bumpy, rough paper a little bit better than the other set of markers. Which should make sense if these have more ink in them, or at least more ink's coming out of them. But, so these were lilies that were in the front yard, I think. This was, well, we had a bunch of lilies, but this was just one of them. But completely wrong, different colors. I just decided to make it yellow because I wanted something bright. And now these kind of blended, and I should have actually put less orange and red on it, because now it just looks, you don't see any of the yellow at all. And, well, you barely see any of it even when I'm done, actually, do you? You kind of do, but not a lot of it. You don't see a lot of the yellow marker, at least. It gets lost amongst the red and the orange, and the orange the orange and the red blended really well together, but the yellow, it just got overtaken by every other color. And now I'm just trying to make the center of the lily a little bit more shadow to give it a bit more dimension, we'll say. And I'm trying to add more yellow, but it doesn't work. It's just not bright enough. You don't see it, which I was just like, oh crap, all that work, wasted marker. But now I am adding blue. No, yeah, it's light blue. The thing about these sets, there's only 8 of them, and some of the markers, I wish the color choices would have been a bit better, but they're not that bit better. And so, I mean, and they said the blue bleeding into the, and I thought, hey, let's try the other markers. Maybe I can get thinner lines, you know, won't bleed as much. Also add some more color to the daisies to see if I can make them. And hubby's outside with the dog. The dog's like, want to play catch? No. But use them here to see if I can add a bit more definition to the lines, and then I'm like, maybe not, because I actually don't know how much that'll bleed. So I just go over it with more of the orange to see if I could blend it a bit more, and it kind of works. So add a bit more water, and the dog must have missed that one because all I heard was thud, 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 so the ball fell down the stairs. But that's okay. Adding a bit more definition to the lily. No, it's not a lily, it's a daisy. See, and I'm trying to blend out the marker from the other one, but it doesn't really work. But that's okay, because I do fix it, sort of, in the end. I kind of fix it. But I'm not, you know, 100% happy with the way these turned out. But that's because they're not meant to make any, like, fabulous pieces of work of art. They're pretty much just to mess around with colors, which is perfectly fine. You know, most kids don't care about, you know, they care about making pretty things, but, you know, most kids don't care if they're expensive art supplies. So I added some blue, I think this is, yeah, see, it's blue, you can see there, to the, and this is where I completely fuck this up, because I really shouldn't have added that. It looks really bad, but that's my fault. Really shouldn't have added that blue to the whole thing there. But live and learn, you know, it's all you can do. Is just practice, and I'm just kind of, you know, making not a mess, making colorful art, we'll say, because what else are you gonna do right now? We're not all stuck inside, but most of us are stuck inside, you know. So yeah, so I'm just wanted to see what these would do, and they kind of work for what they're supposed to do. But this lily looks so muddy right now. It's not even nice at all. So, solution, cover it with stuff. So I got my Posca pens out, and kind of adding yellow to this kind of worked. It looks a little more yellow in the end. It doesn't look so muddy and like one color, which is good. And then add some purple to the middle, and this is me just adding reds. And I think this is a cream color, actually, because I wanted to add it to the little, is it stamen? Is that what it's called on flowers? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've had to know stuff like that about flowers. It's probably called that. I can't remember. And then add a bit of white to it. I have like 3 different sizes of white Posca, so I didn't actually remember. No one knew that. Bit of gold, which I don't think you can see very well in the final one. But yeah, like I said, I've completely abandoned the lilies. I'm just like, No, don't get, you're just getting annoyed with that. So added a bit of blue, actually quite a bit of blue actually to the lilies. But no, see, I tried to go back to learn to talk, Jen. The daisies with the white gel pen, the uni ball one. And then I just give up. I'm like, never mind. And then I add blue to the little pollen things on the lilies. And I'm still, I'm determined, but I do end up giving up on the daisies. But add some more yellow to the lily to try to make that as bright as possible, which in the end does kind of look a little bit bright, but it'd really be probably brighter if I'd actually used maybe actual acrylics. And then I decided I just want a simple black background to it, and I think this really messed up my black Posca pen because the nib was getting kind of a little frayed, but that's my own fault. You got art supplies, you should use them whether they get wrecked or not. But it's usable, it's still usable. It's just kind of got a little frayed, so I might have to pull a little frayed hairs off again. But that's no biggie. It's because of the paper, it's too thick. But Posca pens and paper just don't go together at all. But this is finished, and you can see how the blue kind of stands out against the yellow, and the orange, and the red, and the black. The black background really actually makes the yellow seem a bit brighter than it probably is in real life. Actually, no, I'm staring at it in real life at the moment, and it's better than it was, we'll say. So that's it finished. So thank you for listening and watching my video, and on Saturday is probably going to be part 1 of a digital painting of our dog, which the sketch is done, but the actual painting isn't done yet. But anyway, just come back on Saturday and see the process of getting from nothing to the sketch. I think I paint the background too. So yeah, so that's on Saturday, so come back and see that.